last time we were messing with this thing started.
Okay. Well, I'm here to swear in Jeff and Jacqueline. And before you get started, I just want to make a couple comments from council perspective that we really appreciate what this board does. And when you think about our redesign, how we're going to try to improve downtown and how downtown's going to be redeveloped a little bit, it's going to be a little bit more and more stuff coming your way as we come up with new and different ideas and different approaches. But I know you're a volunteer board, for that we appreciate it, but it's just one of those boards that is always out there, but you guys become a real part of the foundation of the City of Bellbrook and a big part of the growth going forward. So I appreciate what you do on behalf of council. It doesn't go unnoticed, trust me. And believe me, with these meetings being taped and televised, we're able to follow a lot more than we did before, and it really works out good for us on council. So it works out. I appreciate that. So if Jeff and Jacqueline want to come up front, we can do the oath either together or separate.
Wanna do it together?
Oh, yeah. Party.
It's a party.
It's all the same words except for state your name.
Okay, well.
We'll do better at that this time than last time. Everybody says the same time. And this is for an oath of office for the term 3/1/2022 through 12/31/2024, and it's both your second terms. So you raise your right hand, repeat after me. I state your name.
Jacqueline Greenwood?
I, Jeff Owens,
Solemnly swear that I will support
solemnly swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
And the
the
Constitution
Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and will obey the laws thereof,
and will obey the laws thereof,
and that I will,
and that I will,
in all respects,
in all respects,
uphold and enforce
uphold and enforce
the provisions of the Charter
the provisions of the Charter
and the ordinances of Bellbrook,
and the ordinances of Bellbrook,
and will faithfully discharge
will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My hands are always.
I'll get you copies of these
Thank you.
for tonight. Is everybody's microphones on, by the way? I didn't turn them on. Just be mindful of any papers.
The touch. I can never turn that on. I can never turn that on. It doesn't like me.
And until there's new chair and vice chair, then the existing chair will call us to order, and then we can do the roll call, get everybody in, and then you see the first item would be to do that election of chairs, and whenever you're ready to go.
Thank you. Very good. We'll call this meeting of the Village Review Board, February 1st, to order.
Mr. Camp? Here. Mrs. Greenwood?
Here.
Mr. Owens?
Here.
And Mrs. Taylor?
Here.
Okay, election of officers. Do we have any nominees for the position of chair?
Not a big run on the podium on that.
I mean, I'll do it.
Okay. We have a nomination. I'll second that. Any others? Okay, we can close the floor to nominations. You want to call the vote first or move on and do them both at the same time?
Yeah, is the floor closed for nominations? Any other nominees?
No?
No? Okay. Then on a motion for Mr. Camp as chair, Mr. Camp?
Oh, yeah.
Mrs. Greenwood,
Yes.
Mr. Owens,
Yes.
and Mr. Taylor.
Here, yes.
Motion carries.
Congratulations.
Hey, thank you.
You get paid twice as much
Yeah.
Thank you. Twice as much
what
now.
I'm giving up.
Oh,
And now, Mr. Camp, if you'd lead us into the election of vice chair.
election of vice chair, are there any nominees? Or open the floor for nominations?
I'll nominate Ms. Taylor.
I'll second that. Any other nominees for vice chair? So we'll close for nominations and move to vote.
Okay. On the vote nominated Mrs. Taylor for as vice chair, Mr. Camp,
Yes.
Mrs. Greenwood,
Yes.
Mr. Owens,
Yes.
Mrs. Taylor.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Congratulations.
Hey, nice.
you.
Congratulations.
Woo-hoo.
You're gonna learn to sit like this. Sit.
All right, and now we move on to approval of the minutes. Is that correct?
That is correct. And for approval of minutes, it can be a simplified approach as in council is if the chair hears no comments or corrections, then the minutes can stand as approved. If there are corrections, we can note them and bring them back for secondary approval. But don't need to call a motion if you don't want to.
Okay, so we can just move on, or should we approve, do we have to approve the minutes?
You can declare them approved so long so
Okay.
long there are no corrections or additions to the minutes as presented.
Okay, so approval of the minutes, are there any corrections or anything to the
Yeah,
minutes?
I think the last minutes, what we just did with voting people in, I think that was on the last minutes, and we didn't do it.
No, we deferred to this
Deferred.
meeting.
Yeah, we did do
Oh,
that.
okay. Where was
Because,
I?
yeah,
we did do
because we were waiting for the appointments or the reappointments to be officiated by council and then the oaths for those positions so that the board was fully appointed for the 2022 term.
So but is that deleted out of the old minutes, though, where it was supposed to be?
Wasn't in the minutes,
It was on the agenda, but.
on the agenda, but
Yeah,
yeah, if you read
okay.
through the minutes that's attached here,
Okay.
you'll see no vote for any officers in it.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, it was on the agenda, but we deferred that to the next meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
So we can move on to old business? Since there's no corrections or errors to the minutes. Okay. So there's no old business, correct?
That is correct, sir.
So new business, looks like we have VRB 2202, an accessory building.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant, Dwight Bartlett, is requesting approval for the construction of a 2,400 square foot accessory building located at the property 46 East Franklin Street. The code currently allows for 600 square feet as a collective for accessory buildings on a single property, whether that be residential or commercial. The same square footage defines both sets of properties. This particular request is for a variance of 1,800 square feet. The building itself is a 40 by 60 steel structure. It does have dual overhead doors facing to the north, the Ryder Court side, and the setback off East Franklin will be approximately 80 feet. The Village Review Board will make a recommendation this evening to the Board of Zoning Appeals. The applicant also owns 26 East Franklin, which is the former Township Hall. And in an effort to sell that building as part of a larger redevelopment project, the applicant is requesting the variance to be able to move the contents and the business in 26 to this new structure. The property is surrounded by commercial, single-family, and multifamily residential. The comprehensive plan does encourage redevelopment in the old village district, which this would be the first step toward that. The property is serviced by public water, gas, electric, and sanitary. The applicant is also requesting, as part of this application, a curb cut on the Ryder Court side for this particular structure. In speaking with the city engineer, he had no issue with that whatsoever. The plans, and if you, the placement is on the big screen there. It's a little easier to see perhaps. The square with the lines drawn through it would be the approximate placement of the structure. The red lines to the north is the approximate curb cut. And like I said earlier, the approximate setback from East Franklin is about 80 feet. You want to go to the next slide, please? Thank you. The structure, as I mentioned, is a steel structure, charcoal gray. It is a two-tone structure. It does have the water band there on the bottom in a lighter gray color. It does have a porch addition facing the south or the East Franklin side. And the overhead doors, as I mentioned before, face the north. The addition of several windows to dress up the building have been added by the applicant, and those windows will face to the west side of the structure. And with all that being said, the applicant is here for comment and question, and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I had a few. From what I understand, what the outside of the building, it kind of looks like a pole barn.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct? And also, I was a little confused about the flooring. It said something about 0. Is that going to be dirt, gravel, or concrete?
It's a concrete floor.
Concrete
I can
floor?
answer.
Okay. And then I had to understand you're moving your business. You're the one with the little shingle in the township house, right? Okay, so you're going to take the shingle down, you're moving the whole business into this accessory building? Is that correct?
The business has been closed. It's in the process of having a sale of the assets of the school. And the rear portion of the building, which is my son's shop, will be moved over there.
Okay, but, so is this accessory building, is it going to be a business?
It's not currently planned.
Okay. And then my question to you is, can accessory buildings be businesses?
An accessory building traditionally in the code would not, a business could not be run out of an accessory building, would have to be run out of the main building. So this building could be used as a workshop for personal use.
Or storage
Or storage, but to run a business of some sort would be prohibited out of an accessory structure.
And then it's a really nice tree. I guess the post you have in the ground is the lines where the building's going to be. I was up there today. You've got some posts in the ground? Or markers?
Basically, yes, there's about a little over 10-foot side yard between that house and between the property and the house next door residence. And runs about 20 feet from the right of way in the back. And it'll be about, I think it's about 10 or 15 feet off that, the current barn that's there.
Okay. And then there's a really nice tree very close to where you've got it staked. Are you guys going to cut that tree down?
That's bright maple tree that we planted almost 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's nice.
Unfortunately, it's not going to make it.
Oh, no, because it's a really nice,
We'll replant something, but it
okay.
can't
Yeah,
plant on that side.
I hate to see trees come down, that's why I was asking you. So, the only thing I'm really having a problem with is the pole barn part of it. At least on the 3 sides, I wouldn't have a problem, but the side that faces onto the Franklin Street, you know, I noticed you own the building right there next to it, and I think you've got green siding and some stonework. Perhaps put that kind of a front on it to match, not just the plain barn siding. Because I drove up and down the avenue today, and I'm not seeing any barn-sided buildings on the 2 main roads. I mean, I just don't see barn siding buildings in Bellbrook. And I would hate to think we're setting a precedence where, you know, we start having barn-sided buildings and they're gonna pop up everywhere. Because, I mean, I can go out in the country and see plenty of pole barns. It's just that I don't see any in town. So, if, I mean, maybe just the suggestion of putting a nicer front on it,
If that were a condition of success, yes, we could do that.
because that's what you would see when you drive and look. You know, I notice you have a porch.
I would anticipate something more on the order of, that wainscoting high, as you say, like what's on the main building. I don't know, how close we can come to replicating that.
Well, I mean, just an example. It's just,
It would be pretty close.
as long as it's just a nicer front that's going to face out to the main drive.
That's stone facade was source locally, so I would think, I don't know.
I mean, most of even the older buildings that have detached accessory buildings have all been either siding or wood or brick. So trying to keep with that. And I know that in this comprehensive plan, it shows a lot of people that are going for, they want the traditional downtown, they want things to blend. And I think that's probably important to the overall persona of the main streets. So, I mean, that's just some input I had. And saving the trees. I don't want to watch you cut the tree down.
So how does the existing structure play into the square footage allowed?
So the main structure does not play in. So the building on the corner, the green
Right,
building.
understand.
Right.
But the other,
So it's 600 total. So that building, I'm assuming, is around 600 square total. So this additional building is on top of that.
I mean,
So-
that's a big building.
so then we're actually asking for another 2,400.
So yes, so the variance is actually, and I apologize, I did mistype that. The variance is for 2,400, not 18.
Wow.
2,400 total square feet.
May I comment? It's also interesting to note that that's a double lot, too, so it's not
Correct.
as though we're trying to cram it all onto one lot. And I think the general scope of restrictions or requirements, once you keep it within 40% of the total area of the lot,
Mhm.
the total building would be 40% or less, stays within that.
Yeah,
And I think what, a little bit more clear on that is basically because it is a double lot, the owner could split the lot and then construct a new building basically almost without the need of a variance.
So, understand, yeah, and it's probably more like 3 or 4 or 5 lots from the original city lot size. But-
Yeah, there's a decent amount of space there for sure.
Yeah, so, there probably is enough space. I don't know if a single lot, can you build only an accessory building on a lot?
No.
Yes, you cannot have two main buildings on the same lot.
I mean, if it was split,
Oh,
could you construct only an accessory building on the lot?
In that case, it would be a main building.
yeah.
Okay, but even though it's not a home, it would just be a pole barn.
The,
that's okay.
the lot is zoned B4. So it's zoned as a commercial lot.
Okay,
So in B4, there's a tremendous amount of uses allowed. And the use of a workshop could fit into that, even though it's not a business. It doesn't have to be a home, it doesn't have to be a business, so to speak. Could be a workshop, could be a storage facility, could be, several different things, so.
right.
So, it also, and maybe I'm quoting from the wrong thing here, but I was going through this because I was trying to find out about accessory buildings, so, kind of just pigeonhole things here. I found this at Article 18, General Provisions, and it says, hereafter, no buildings or structures shall be erected, altered, or enlarged, nor shall land be used for any non-residential use on a lot that adjoins or faces any residential district until a plan for screening has been submitted and approved by the enforcing officer or planning board. So does that mean only if it's a business? Or does that mean because he's wants to build this big building, there's going to have to be, like I said, a decent front on it or somehow to screen it and make it more desirable to look at?
So, whenever you build a new building, now, could you read that again, please?
And that's specific to a residential district, I
Page
believe.
148.
It is.
Under screening, it just says screening. Let me look real quick, yeah. 18.17. Hereafter, no buildings or structures shall be erected, altered, or enlarged, nor shall land be used for any non-residential use on a lot that adjoins or faces any residential district until a plan for screening has been submitted and approved by the enforcing officer or planning board. And then under that, it gives different forms of screening.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I could look at that in two ways. One, this building doesn't face a residential. Right? It's adjacent to a residential.
I don't know. If you look out, you're going to see the church, and right next to the church are homes
Across the street,
across the street.
The Central Business District is what Franklin Street is zoned.
Right.
So even though
before.
there's homes there, it
So-
doesn't count?
No, it can include homes, but it's not a residentially zoned area. It
district.
can include residential.
It's
right.
B4. So that's the interesting thing about this code, to me, as a newcomer, that in a business district, you can have a residence. I've not seen that before.
Well,
It's an
especially in
interesting-
older
Right.
homes,
It's an
like the old village
interesting,
district.
it's an interesting take on a code. As part of this, some landscaping could be added and required for that screening purpose. The frontage that the applicant has seemed to agree to would also help, in my opinion.
It's a beautiful lot. It's really a nice, one of the few left. So, it's a beautiful lot. So it'd be nice to be able to keep the enhancement, as you can see, keep the enhancement of the green and, make it desirable. Whereas, like I said, with a pole barn, a front on it would make it nice. Or some kind of something there, especially if you're going to cut down the tree.
And that can be in the recommendation.
I mean, the lot appears to be plenty big enough, and certainly you own it, you should be able to enjoy it as you see fit. I don't really struggle with that, although it is, if the stakes are anywhere accurate, you're much closer than 10 feet to the neighbor, which, that's a big building to stuff right up against the house.
There are cuts of stakes that less than we're in discussions with, in order to give enough room as a lot to give a reasonable grading.
Gotcha.
And to avoid having to put a wall. Sure. It doesn't look neighbors.
Sure.
That was done in San You may have seen, I think there are two mistakes on the side.
Okay, so you're thinking 10 foot, and that would, it sounds like you've got a way to get rid of that much metal, or that much building. It's taken away from ground absorption, of course. But other than that, I can't find anywhere in the code where a pole barn fits in the districts, and that's the only problem I have.
And is that a well? Is that an active well? What is that right there in the front with the,
That has been like that for 20 years that we owned it, and I've never seen water drawn from it. There is no mechanism in it that I know of.
I know most of the wells in the old village have been filled in. There's very few left. That's why I was
Any other
asking.
wells that I have
Yeah.
in the old village have been capped build.
Yeah.
Disabled.
Doesn't call that out specifically.
No, no access to water from inside the building that would, other than city.
I would add some administrative comments in closing that Dwight has certainly been a friend to downtown Bellbrook for some time with the amount of properties that he owns, and we want to certainly offer our thanks for his investment into the community and his willingness to continue to invest and improve the value of the neighboring properties. Although by design and architecture, quite frankly, to stick build a architecturally correct and period correct based on some of the preferences within the code would probably cost out the ability to do this project and begin reinvestment. In the fact that he had the foresight to see the ability to give up his current space for a complete new redevelopment and very exciting use to meet the comprehensive plan and some additional redevelopment into downtown in the existing Old Township Hall building. So that is certainly the catalyst that started his need to relocate some of his property and his workshop. And just based on the property that he has invested in, I think it stands out as some of the nicely kept, well-built, and it's certainly architecturally correct real estate that we have in downtown, certainly with Dwight's involvement in the historical museum. He's very proud and very passionate about maintaining that, and I think that he's been a leader in that, and I certainly think that whatever he does will certainly contribute to the growth of that and redevelopment in the Village District of Bellbrook. So I appreciate and thank you on behalf of the city for your continued investment and reinvestment into downtown.
Do we have any more discussion on BRB 2202?
I would just like to know how everybody on the board feels about a pole barn, which is fine if we put a decent front on it. I mean, is that something we could make a note or request?
Yes.
Okay. So,
I mean, I've seen some pretty nice looking pole barns lately. I mean,
I
the
think
ones I've insured some pretty nice looking ones lately that are,
yeah, but you're not seeing them through town.
but they're very, very nice. I mean, they're not like they used to be where they were just, kind of thrown up and put metal on them. They look really nice nowadays, the ones I've seen. And the ones I insure, they're very, very nice.
Yeah, but the one he's doing is metal.
But it's the newer type. It's not gonna look like, when I think of a pole barn, I used to think of like an old Morton building that looked like it was like just a glorified shed. They don't look that way anymore. They look nicer. They have, the material looks nicer. They look really, lack of better terms, they look really great now.
Oh, I'm not disputing the fact of the building size. It's just the persona of the presence of a pole barn in the old village.
If we look at some of the other architecture in the area, including the building, the accessory structure that's on there, much of it is kind of either, I'm not good in architecture, so I'll call it like a basic shaker type of look or a flat or a warehousing look. It's certainly not unique. The applicant is certainly wanting to put the front porch and everything on it to make it look as if it's certainly different than a pole barn. But I would note regarding recommendations and such, this is a request for variance for the square footage on a lot. And although we can get into making sure that we have recommendations from the board regarding materials, metal and pole barns are not something that is prohibited or called out or named specifically in the code. When we do take this on to the BZA, really the only decision to be made is going to be based on the variance for the square footage. So whatever recommendations that we make, they can't necessarily be binding like a development agreement would be for like a basic development plan or even a detailed development plan for something that would come through, let's say, planning board or something like that. So I just want to make sure to set expectations that there's a possibility that the recommendations, the process, may not require some of those recommendations, and the code itself doesn't have a spot to where we can hold that to it. So, just wanted to make sure that whatever discussion that we have, that we get it documented correctly so that the applicant has what he needs to present, and include those recommendations for his next application, which would be to BZA.
Because it's all right if it's a pole barn, as long as it doesn't look like one in the front.
Yeah,
Well, I think that's what he said. He
Yeah.
said he was.
Yeah.
it's got a front porch on it, and I
It'll
think,
look-
yeah.
Well, I've seen a lot of pole barns out in the country with porches on them.
Uh-huh.
And it's especially the kits, they all look pretty much the same. So if this can be enhanced in any way, look nice, I don't mind the pole barn. I just like the front of it facing the street to look aesthetically with the rest of the town.
And I think.
We all agree.
Yeah, and what the applicant, I think the applicant's willing to work in that direction.
Because
And
I
he
like
said.
what you did with that building, the green, and you've got the stonework. I think that really looks nice, for that old building.
We'll do whatever we need to do to make it.
I mean, I'm not saying you have to go out and buy a bunch of stone and,
I spent enough on downtown that I don't want to screw it up.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I'm not saying I expect you to go buy a big bunch of stonework and do all that. I'm just saying that looks nice, so, I know that you know what looks nice and what doesn't. Yeah. So, I mean, every time I drive by it every day.
Let you know, we're aware of your concerns. We share some of those concerns. We did a couple of things to minimize the concern. Number one is we moved it as far back on the lot because we reasonably could. We got more green space. It gives us some things to do in the way of landscaping if we like out front. We changed the roof slope, so the pitch of the roof is a 6, not a 412 or 312, which is what you usually see in pole barns. And we changed the colors a bit to make it, tone it down a little bit, so it doesn't stand out. I mean, it's not barn erected. And there's a couple other things we can do that I haven't spoken with my son about it yet, so I'm not sure I'm ready to share them. But there's a couple things we can do that give a little less of a pole barn look.
Now, and I don't know if this is relevant, but there's a lot of people that do live back there. This is not going to be anything really noisy, is it, that you're doing in there we're going to start hearing complaints about too much noise if the people can't live their lives with drills and,
Biggest noise factor will be prior to the actual erection of the building, which would be site prep. You got a couple bulldozers in there or whatever. Do that, and we'll be redoing some drainage lines to make sure that we aren't dumping all the water that comes off those roofs into
so nothing on the inside that's going to be, your guys aren't going to be in there with big saws and rivets and, because, people live.
The entire barn takes between a week and a half. Comes basically semi-assembled.
I think the question is, are you going to be doing anything once it's up and erect that is any different than what you're doing in the spot that's, 50 feet away from it right now?
No.
Okay. Well, there's nobody that lives right there where he's at now, but there are people that live right there on that back road. A lot of people, so.
Not as much a noise factor as I reported.
As I know, there's, 4 apartment townhouses right there. So as soon as you pull in, if you look out, there's 4 townhouses right there. And then the house right next door as well. Anyway. All right.
So
Or actually the residential units directly adjacent to him currently, the apartments that share a parking lot between your current building and the the White House on the other corner that's for sale. The back part of those are all leased units that are apartments. So there are, and directly behind you, there's also a quadplex of residential units now. So, really, actually, it appears that there's probably more likelihood now of a closer proximity of residential units at the current location than what there may be at the new one, based on a overhead map look. So I don't think that would be a concern in terms of any potential disturbance.
Then your total height would be roughly 24 feet? Your total height would be about 24
Right
feet?
about that. 24, 24 and a half, 23 and a half.
Is there any more discussion? We have a motion vote on 2202. Allowing the variance for the 2,400 feet, is that correct? Square feet?
One quick thing, is that zone business?
It's
That
zoned
particular lot?
B4. I'm sorry, say that again?
Is that lot zoned for business?
B4. It's zoned B4, yes.
We call it Central Business District,
District.
might be referred
Yeah.
to in the code.
Yeah.
Okay.
Motion? Second?
I'll second it.
Motion to vote on BRB 2202 has been seconded, so,
Round discussion, okay.
any discussion? I'm sorry. Any more discussion? All right, we're good.
Mr. Camp,
Yes.
Mrs. Greenwood,
Yes.
Mr. Owens,
No.
and Mrs. Taylor.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Is there any other new business?
No, sir.
Okay. Do we have any open discussion on anything? Or is that just here for,
I do.
Here for any open discussion.
any
I
open
do.
discussion?
I do.
Okay.
For the last 3 years, I've worked alongside of Karen McGill. I think she did a really good job. I hate to see her leave. She was an asset to this board, and I just wanted to make notice of that I appreciate everything she did. That's it.
Following up on that, just information that's been posted in, as of yet, we haven't received any applications. So if you're aware of anybody, please have them jump on the website and get the application submitted.
Is there an age requirement on that?
That's a good question. Do you know
have
of
to be
any,
a
Mayor?
registered voter.
Registered voter maybe.
Is that what it is? Yeah, elector probably, that would be about it.
You
So
have to be a
18,
registered
yeah.
voter.
Okay.
Yeah, elector.
Any other open discussion? Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Oh, yeah. Oh, second. I'll second it.
Motion adjourned, Mr. Camp.
All in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Aye.
Aye.
So,
Nope, you're fine. That works.
a long time.